These long dog days of summer, I mean, we just made it through a heat wave. Mama was parched through this heat wave. I was hitting up Dunkin' every single day, and I will continue to probably for the rest of my days, but especially this summer. Dunkin' is helping everyone stay cool this summer with its lineup of refreshers. These drinks are packed with bold, fruity flavors and served ice cold. It's amazing. Dunkin' refreshers are the perfect afternoon pick-me-up. I like to start my morning with them personally, and then sometimes I go back for a second one because I'm just feeling crazy. They come in a variety of delicious flavors, including fan favorites mango pineapple and strawberry dragon fruit. And then for a limited time, there's black cherry and there's pink pineapple. I'm going to tell you something right now, and it's a bold claim, let me tell you, but I stand behind it. Pink pineapple will change your life. It is so good. It has me feeling like I'm sitting in a pool, resort side, just living, honey. It's so yummy. Try your favorite flavor with green tea, sparkling water, lemonade, or Dunkin's all-new limeade. I haven't tried the limeade yet, but I'm going to. Usually I get my drinks made with green tea and occasionally lemonade, but I do really like the green tea. Or if you don't want to build your own, try one of Dunkin's curated refreshers like the Cherry Lime Ricky or the Ultimate Pink Daydream. The Cherry Lime Ricky, scrumptious. I could drink like 3 of these a day. They're so freaking yummy. Head to Dunkin' today and find your favorite refresher. Dunkin' refreshers contain less than 1% fruit juice. Limited time offer. When it comes to online college, Southern New Hampshire University is so good, it's scary. Listen, the facts don't lie. SNHU has degree programs that fit your goals, online classes that fit your life, and real support at every step. And if that wasn't enough, they've got some of the lowest online tuition rates in the U.S. This is an airtight case, you guys. Visit snhu.edu/morbid to get started. That's snhu.edu/morbid. Chilling crime cases are mysterious, but finding coverage shouldn't be. With the State Farm Personal Price Plan, you have options and can personalize your plan to help create an affordable price so you can get back to cracking all of life's bigger cases. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can choose to bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Head to statefarm.com to get a quote. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state. Hey weirdos, I'm Ash.
And I'm Elena.
And this is Morbid.
This is morbid.
Morbid, and I have a tummy ache.
Tummy troubles abound over there.
Elena made me get Taco Bell today. And that was a bad idea. And in the last episode, if you heard that I had a Baja Blast, don't worry. I don't just have Taco Bell every day. This is the same day.
Bulk recording.
Party.
So she was very excited about it in the first episode.
You'll hear a marked difference.
Yeah, the energy has dwindled a little
IBS girlies out there, everybody.
I feel for you.
Do you guys eat Taco Bell? Do you do that to yourselves?
I feel like people do.
I can't go to Taco Bell. I have IBS.
I have IBS. I do not. And I'm sorry that you go through this.
It is remarkable that you don't have stomach issues.
I know. I'm my dad.
I know.
I got my dad's stomach.
I don't know.
That boy is like almost 80 years old and he can still eat like buffalo chicken in the middle of the night if he wanted to.
He does do that. I don't know if my dad has a bad stomach or not. And I don't know about my mom either. So
I'm pretty she has a bad stomach.
Yeah, probs.
Got it from mom.
Ma'am.
I
got it from Ma. She has a bad stomach. Anyway,
bad stomach.
Enough about my digestive issues.
You know,
I have a very crazy tale today, a very sad tale, of course, because you're listening to Morbid. This is going to be about the murder of one Albert Snyder.
Oh, Albert is such a Albert. Nope, it's not. Albert Fish. I was going to say Albert. There's never been an unkind Albert.
So this Albert, rumor has it he wasn't the kindest.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know a kind Albert.
I don't know an Albert.
Just flipped that switch a little bit.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. Like, he's said to have not been the kindest by some people who didn't do the kindest thing to him.
So take it with a giant grain of salt.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing.
Take it with like half a grain of salt.
Yeah.
So, but if we're going to talk about Albert Snyder, first we have to talk about Mamie Ruth Brown, who was later married to Albert Snyder. So let's do that.
Let's do it.
Mamie Ruth Brown was born in New York, New York, to Harry and Josephine Brown on March 27th, 1895.
City's so nice they named it twice.
Harry had moved to New York, New York from Norway. He loves places that start with N.
Look it. We love a Norwegian.
Yeah, this was decades earlier that he moved there. And when he did, he met Josephine, who had also come to the U.S., but she came from a coastal village in Sweden.
I'm obsessed with all of that.
Aren't you?
Because I also love Swedish people.
And I want to go to a coastal village in Sweden.
Me too.
I think I'd be so much better off.
I think we all would.
I probably wouldn't even have IBS, actually.
Probably. I don't think they have it there. They don't even know what it is.
That's their claim to fame. We're Sweden. We don't have IBS.
Swedish people. Do you have stomach problems? I feel like you don't.
Probably not. I think that's highly American.
Because I feel like you're lovely. And like it's nice there.
Less processed.
Less processed. Let us know. Do you have IBS, Sweden?
Hit us up.
I would like to know.
Me too. Well, initially the family, which included Ruth's older brother Andrew, lived in a small apartment on Manhattan's west side on Morningside Avenue.
Oh.
Within a few years, though, they moved north to a less developed part of the city where they shared a rented house with Harry's nephew and brother-in-law. Now, even though they had worked to earn enough financial stability to move out of the slums of Morningside Avenue, the Browns had what author Landis McClellar describes as a desperately hard life. Yeah.
That sounds great.
No. Harry Brown had...
No.
No. Harry Brown did have reliable employment as a carpenter and a contractor, but he also had a lot of health issues, and most of the time he wasn't able to work at all because of untreated epilepsy.
Ooh.
Yeah. So the family had to rely on boarders to help cover the rent. And on the occasions when Harry was unable to work, Josephine would have to find temporary work as a sickroom attendant or practical nurse, kind of just leaving the children to fend for themselves at home. Yeah. Aside from their financial constraints, Harry and Josephine always managed to provide the essentials for their kids. They never went without food, clothing, or shelter, like the basics.
That's good.
But in comparison to a lot of other families living in poverty in New York at the time, the Browns could have considered themselves lucky. Ruth just never saw it that way. Years later, when she was asked about her childhood, she recalled that it was, quote, dominated by a sense of deprivation and want.
That's sad.
I know. Like, she had food, she had shelter, but she and her brother never got the luxuries of new toys and fancy clothes like a lot of other kids in their neighborhood did. Because remember, they were able to work and, like, move to a nicer neighborhood, but they couldn't really keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, and that's sad.
Also, a little after her 6th birthday, Ruth was hospitalized and had to have intestinal surgery, which was the first of a ton of health problems that she would go through while she was still pretty young.
Oh, man.
Just a few years later, at 9 years old, she suffered severe sunstroke, and it actually required medical attention. And after that, she started to experience fainting spells, which she actually blamed on her dad's epilepsy, but there's no evidence to support that there was a link between the two. She just kind of surmised that maybe there was.
Put that link in there.
Yeah. But the most difficult of these problems by far was an ongoing problem with her appendix that all started with a botched appendectomy when she was 12.
Oh.
Yeah, the thought of a botched one of those.
No
thanks.
Nope.
The thought of that in and of itself, an appendectomy, like
it's terrifying.
Yeah. But a botched one?
Ooh, no.
That caused years and years of physical and emotional pain, and her health problems left her unable to play with the other children in the neighborhood, so that caused her to feel isolated.
Oh, that's sad.
It's really sad. Now, when she was finished with the 8th grade, Ruth decided to quit school and actually take a job with the New York Telephone Company. It's kind of unclear why she left school, but author McClellar, who wrote The Double Indemnity Murders, notes that around the same time, Ruth had become romantically involved with one of her teachers.
Oh.
And, quote unquote, the two carried on a romance during vacation months.
Oh.
Now, when the school year resumed in the fall, Ruth became intensely jealous of any other girl who showed any kind of interest in this teacher.
No.
And on a few occasions, that jealousy actually escalated to violence.
Oh, no.
McClellan wrote, "This would explain the sudden decision to leave school. Perhaps she was caught fooling around with a teacher, and he was fired and she was expelled. Or maybe she quit in disgrace."
Oh, man.
Yeah. Yikes.
Very scandalo.
Scandalo,
Yeah.
as Jessica
I was
would
trying
say.
to think of the word.
Yeah. Whatever her reasons for leaving, though, Ruth soon found that full-time work did suit her. In a really short time, she was making decent money, she was able to help support her family, and she also still had money left over for herself. And it was actually through her job at the phone company that she ended up meeting Albert Snyder. They met when she accidentally dialed the wrong number in 1915.
Oh, my goodness.
It's actually unknown who she was trying to reach, but she accidentally dialed Snyder's number, who was the editor of Motorboating magazine. You have to laugh at that. That's there for you to laugh.
Okay,
it's called comedic relief.
Thank you.
Motorboating magazine. But the confusion turned out to be lucky because by the end of that day, Ruth had quit her job at the phone company and accepted Snyder's job offer as the magazine's newest proofreader and copyist.
Oh.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Let's talk about Albert.
Let's talk about it.
Albert Snyder was born October 11th, 1882 in Kings County, New York, to Charles and Mary Snyder. They were German immigrants who had moved to Brooklyn several years earlier. Charles owned and operated a small bakery and cafe in Williamsburg, but the family lived in an apartment above the store, which,
That's adorable.
that must have also just smelled good at all times.
Oh, yeah.
By all accounts, Albert's early life was fairly unremarkable, but from a very early age, he did show a talent and passion for art and creativity that he'd carry into adulthood, and actually it would lead him to a career in publishing. When he was finished with high school, he attended the Pratt Institute to study art, and when he completed his degree, he had really no difficulty finding work as a commercial artist.
Look at Albert.
Work was his main focus, but he also managed to make time for his other passions, outdoor sports and boating.
Motorboating?
Maybe both.
Perhaps.
It would take a few more years of professional ladder climbing, but eventually he would manage to combine his passion for art with his passion for outdoors and his passion for motorboating and become the editor of Motorboating magazine.
Heyo.
I said, I will never be over this.
No, honestly, you shouldn't.
Hell, when Albert was in his early 20s, his father decided to sell the bakery and retire. He had managed to build a successful business over the years, and when he sold the bakery, he was able to move the entire family from the apartment in Williamsburg to a 3-story home in the Bedford, I think it's Stuyvesant neighborhood. It was there that Albert met his first serious girlfriend, Jessie, I think it's Guichard. Her family lived just a few houses down, so they were cute little neighbors.
Adorable.
They dated very, very seriously for a long time, and Albert was devastated when in the fall of 1912, Jessie died from pneumonia at age 30.
Oh.
McClellan wrote, Snyder never really got over Jessie. He treasured his scrapbooks filled with meticulously dated and captioned photographs of her, and every day until his death, he wore a keepsake pin inscribed JG.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, that was
like real love.
They were soulmates.
Yeah.
He may never have gotten over Jessie, but for Albert, he did want to have his life continue to move on. He knew that he couldn't just sit around sad all day. So a year after her death in early 1913, Albert started working at Motorboating magazine. I can't ever say it without laughing.
You never will.
I'm sorry. And a year later, he received that mistaken call from that young woman, Ruth, at the phone company.
Oh.
So when I first told you about this, I was like, it was really cute. She dialed the wrong number. And
yeah, we love that.
Then she ended up with a job. At first, Albert was actually annoyed by her mistake, and he hung up on her before she even had time to finish apologizing.
Love that.
And he usually would have left it at that, but for some reason, he ended up feeling guilty and just called her back to apologize for how rude he had been.
Huh.
Now, Ruth accepted the apology, and after a few minutes of casual small talk, he asked her if she wanted to come down to the publishing company to discuss a job opening.
Look at that.
It's kind of like kismet.
I was going to say, what a chance opportunity.
Definitely. Ruth accepted the invitation, and by the end of the day, she was the newest employee in the Hearst Company's secretarial pool.
Look at her.
I know, just making her way up. Well, Albert may have still been heartbroken over the loss of Jessie, but that did not stop him from pursuing Ruth. Within days of starting the new job, he started making some advances, implying that, maybe he was romantically interested.
Hey, yo.
On her first day of work, he snuck up behind her at her desk and started playing with her hair and then asked her to join him for dinner that night. It was a very different time.
It was the most different of times.
Yeah.
Because that would not be met with the same kind of reaction.
Now, today you get Helga Pataki.
Yeah, don't come play with my hair.
Don't touch me.
No.
But, different time.
Such a different time.
Later that day, Ruth asked one of her coworkers whether she should go to dinner with him or not. And apparently the coworker replied, "Don't go stepping out with him, Brownie. You won't come back the same way you went out."
Whoa.
Which I just love the idea of like her coworker being like, "I have all the hot tea and baby, you don't want to do that."
And also it's like, I don't know. You made it sound kind of awesome.
You won't come back the same way you went out could be
Like,
so fucking great or it could be so fucking bad.
And that's the thing. And I'm like, I don't know.
That's not a gamble I'd take.
That's a dice roll right there.
It is.
But it's still a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
You know?
You never know.
They made it sound all right.
I don't know. It's kind of unclear what she was implying because, like we just said, it could have been one of two very extreme things. But it was enough to make Ruth decline the invitation. She wasn't ready to roll the die that night.
No, she wasn't ready.
No. Now, in the weeks that followed, Albert just kept on asking Ruth to go to lunch, go to dinner, any occasion he could find as an excuse for a date. And she kept refusing his invitations, remembering what her coworker had said. But eventually she relented and was like, "You know what? I'll go to lunch with you." According to Ruth, Albert's advances were always made, quote, "in the spirit of good fun," and she actually never felt threatened. She didn't feel like it was inappropriate at all.
Well, that's good.
And maybe that's why, after repeatedly refusing him for weeks, she eventually caved and would occasionally join him for lunch or dinner. So they were kind of like casually dating.
Yeah.
A few months after starting the job at Motorboating Magazine,
Always.
Ruth was offered and accepted a better paying job with a printing company. No longer working at the publisher, she expected not to see Albert Snyder, but just a few days after starting her job, he showed up at the office and was like, "Hey, you want to go to lunch?"
Yeah.
Ruth didn't really have much interest in actually seriously dating Albert before, but the more he pursued her, the more viable of an option he became. After all, he had a stable job,
Yeah.
he was cultured, he had an interest in the arts, and most importantly, he lavished her with gifts and nights out constantly.
So there you go.
Yeah. So they started dating, and he made the trip regularly downtown to take her to lunch, dinner, or to see a show. By Christmas 1914, he actually proposed to Ruth, but given the 13-year age difference between them, she was like, I don't think so.
No thanks.
But at her 20th birthday party a few months later, Albert showed up with flowers, a box of chocolates, and an expensive engagement ring.
Whoa.
And the grand gesture was enough to persuade Ruth to this time accept his proposal.
Look at that. That felt like it
happened
escalated
kinda fast.
quickly.
Wait, this is weird. The couple married July 24th, 1915.
Whoa. What the fuck is that about?
Because remember at the
That's
top of
too
this,
weird.
I said we're recording on the same day. You remember the Taco Bell day. And in your case, the murderer's
They were
birthday.
born on July 24th.
And in this case, they got married on July 24th, which, if you don't remember, was yesterday.
What does that mean? That's too weird.
That is weird.
Of all the days in the year, there's 365 of them.
There are.
That's weird. We didn't do that.
For that to happen once is weird. For that to happen twice is spooky.
It's like the owl thing. I see one owl, I'm like, that's fun. I see two, I'm like, I'm a little weirded out.
Exactly.
What's going on?
Yeah. Who, bitch.
Who? I can only
are
handle
you?
one who. And even that's like just mystical as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't love it.
I don't know about that.
That's the weird coincidence. But they did get married yesterday, but in 1915.
Yeah.
In a small ceremony, which was at the Browns family apartment, and a bunch of their friends and family attended. And then later they moved to a rented house in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. If Ruth thought that married life was going to be a really, nice continuation of their relationship up to that point, she was pretty quickly disenchanted. Instead of the long lunches, the dinners, the nice gifts, all that kind of thing that had characterized most of their time dating, Albert immediately went back to the routine of his bachelor days. He used most of his time outside the office to pursue his own hobbies and putter around the house. Like he wasn't putting as much effort in now that he had gotten her.
Yeah.
That
makes sense.
And on the weekends, he could typically be found on his boat, which was a 30-foot cabin cruiser that he named the Jessie G.
Oh.
In a tribute, obviously, to his late girlfriend.
Okay,
Which,
I know this case and that I forgot about that part and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
oh.
After they got married, Ruth tried to convince him to change the name to Ruth, but he wouldn't do it. And I kind of see both sides here.
I can too.
Because it's like, okay, it wasn't like you got married and then he bought a boat and named it after his ex-girlfriend. He already had the boat.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like, I don't know that I would want to be on my husband's boat named after another girl, no matter like when it was named.
Yeah.
But then the fact that she died, like, that's tough.
Yeah, that's really tough. I can see both sides. I can understand him not wanting to change it.
Yeah.
And I can understand her wanting him to change it.
I think you just kind of have to agree to disagree there.
Yeah.
But
then, like, do you get on the boat? I feel like you need to name it something totally different.
or just get another boat.
Just buy another boat, Albert.
You're rich.
Yeah,
I don't know.
get another boat.
You work at Motor Boating Magazine.
You do.
So
So I feel like,
you must have a boating connection.
yeah.
Yeah, just get another one.
Call
named
your
Ruth.
boat guy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. This part of the show is brought to you by Anua, the Korean skincare brand known for scientific, gentle, yet effective formulations. The latest from Anua is the Retinol Collagen Gua Sha Cream, a firming cream with a gua sha-shaped tip built right in. Have you guys heard of gua sha? It's that viral massage tool that moves fluid and tension out of your face. Less puffiness, a snatched jawline, honey, more definition in your face. Retinol firms and reduces fine lines, and collagen keeps your skin plump and structured. This cream has both of those things, arguably the most optimal combo for that snatched, lifted look all in one step. I am obsessed with the Gua Sha cream. First of all, it feels so cool to the touch when you put that on your face. It's just like, this is lovely. It's like a little spa treatment that you can give yourself. I like to do mine at night after I get out of the shower. I rub the cream on my face with the little gua sha. I'm sculpting that jawline, honey. I got it on the cheekbones. And actually, I had a facial the other day, and the lady doing my facial, the professional, she said, "Do you use a gua sha at home?" And I said, "I do." And I said, "How did you know that?" And she said, "I didn't have those little like bumps in my chin or like different areas like that." So she could tell that I was using the gua sha. And I said, "Oh my God." I just feel like I wake up less puffy in the morning when I do it the night before. But you can do it whenever you want to. I, 10 out of 10, recommend this product. The Anua Gua Sha Cream Value Set is available at anua.com, already discounted. Use code MORBID for an extra 10% off. That's ANUA.com, code MORBID. Chilling crime cases are mysterious, but finding coverage shouldn't be. With the State Farm Personal Price Plan, you have options and can personalize your plan to help create an affordable price so you can get back to cracking all of life's bigger cases. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can choose to bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Head to statefarm.com to get a quote. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state. Well, anyway, Albert's apparent lack of interest in spending time with his wife was a source of many, many arguments.
That'll be a problem too.
Yeah, but the biggest sign of incompatibility was their respective feelings about children. Since she was little, Ruth had always dreamed of getting married and having kids. Albert, on the other hand, had absolutely no interest in having children, and he was relieved when he found out that Ruth's childhood surgeries made the potential for children pretty unlikely. But 2 years into their marriage and without telling him, Ruth had a minor medical procedure that greatly increased her chances of getting pregnant. And in the winter of 1917, she did become pregnant.
I wonder what that was.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
I have no idea.
interesting.
But I was wondering the same thing,
Yeah.
like what you could have
What
to
it
increase
was.
your chances.
Yeah. I
I can't think of anything, can you?
Yeah. I can't.
Yeah, I don't want to speculate too much.
Yeah.
But according to McClellar, Snyder was enraged at the news of the pregnancy, but comforted himself with the thought that perhaps he would have a son to keep him company.
Or maybe a daughter.
He didn't.
No.
No, they had a daughter named Lorraine. She was born in November of that year, and Albert was described as inconsolable.
about having a daughter.
Get the fuck over it, is what I have to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The arrival of the baby didn't make Ruth and Albert's relationship any better, obviously.
Yeah.
Lorraine was described as a difficult child, which is so stupid.
She was a baby.
It's like, yeah, she had needs.
Yeah, she had needs.
She tended to become sick pretty easily, so she required additional attention. And not long after
How
Lorraine...
dare her.
I know, ew.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Lorraine.
That baby.
Cool it. But not long after Lorraine's birth, the family moved from Bay Ridge and bought a house next door to Ruth's parents so that she could actually have some extra help because,
Yeah.
you know, Lorraine was sickly and obviously her family knew what that was like. Unfortunately, for unknown reasons, within a year, they had developed a really bad relationship with their neighbors, and Albert uprooted the family and moved them to Queens, where they would remain for the rest of their marriage.
Huh.
But you wonder what happened there. It got so bad and contentious with their neighbors that they had
left.
to move.
Like, damn.
Yeah.
That's serious beef with your neighbors.
That's a big old beef.
Yeah.
It's like the, what's it, the McCoys and
The Hatfields and McCoys.
Yeah, there
you
you go.
Get out of town.
Now later, Ruth would repeatedly claim that Albert was quote unquote cruel to his daughter and abusive towards both of them. It's unclear if this is true or not, and you, like I said, have to take her word with a grain of source. Remember, with a grain of source.
With a grain of source.
With a grain of sand. Remember the source. But there's no denying that the two of them were unhappy in their marriage. By all accounts, Albert was obsessive about order and cleanliness, and he would lash out at Ruth and Lorraine whenever things didn't meet his standards. And while they didn't have any financial trouble and their needs were always met, he was constantly complaining to Ruth about expenses. And as the marriage continued to deteriorate, Ruth and Albert's intimate life obviously declined rapidly. At first, Albert tried to kind of coerce Ruth into, you know, getting together. Getting busy. And when that stopped working, he would, quote unquote, force himself on her.
Oh.
Eventually, things got to the point, though, where he stopped bothering her altogether.
Oh, my. This is awful.
The whole thing is a wreck.
Yeah.
As the marriage continued to crumble, Albert started drinking heavily, and Ruth started looking for attention elsewhere. According to McKellar, Ruth, quote, wasn't interested in women. She'd hardly ever speak to a woman on the street, but every man in the neighborhood was on speaking terms with her. She made it a point to nod to every strange man she saw on the street and would soon establish a casual relationship with him.
Wow.
Yeah. And he doesn't mean like strange men. He means like strangers.
Yeah, just like men she didn't know.
Yeah. One man who lived in the neighborhood at the time and was a little bit younger recalled of Ruth, most of the folks thought she was pretty fast, but us kids liked her. She was a great cut-up.
I mean, damn, what a descriptor.
The adults fucking hated her, but we liked her.
She was pretty fast.
She's fun.
We thought she was great. She was a cut-up, though.
I love cut-up.
Cut-up. I know, that's so 20s.
It is. Now, Ruth did her best to keep up appearances for the friends and for the neighbors, but by 1925, the Snyders' marriage had completely disintegrated. Arguments were escalating into screaming matches. Then her and Albert would go days without speaking to each other. His drinking... Wow.
His drinking.
I just became Michaela. His drinking. His drinking had worsened considerably, and his temper was explosive. On one occasion, when a neighborhood boy accidentally sent a baseball through the Snyders' window, Albert was said to have chased the boy down the street, quote, into the boy's own living room, where he pummeled him within an inch of his life.
I'm sorry, what?
So they were playing neighborhood baseball.
You're like, let me explain.
And this kid accidentally like threw the baseball through the window. I'm sure it happened a lot in the 20s, and especially in New York. And Albert was very angry and allegedly found that boy and allegedly beat him almost to death.
That's wild.
That's one way to describe
feral behavior.
It is.
If true.
If true.
Because obviously he's not around to dispel any of this.
Exactly.
And he wasn't at the time either.
Exactly. But that wasn't even just Ruth saying that. That was like somebody's
like other
recollection.
People saying, yeah, if that's somebody's recollection, it's like, damn, Albert.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And people did also remember that his tendency to blow up at neighbors was bad, but it was no worse than the emotional abuse and manipulation that was directed at Lorraine.
No.
Once, and this is a trigger warning for pretty much like child abuse. Once, when she refused to eat her morning oatmeal, Albert got so angry that he locked himself in his bedroom and told her he was going to shoot himself with a pistol because she wouldn't eat her oatmeal for breakfast.
Get it together.
Yeah.
Get it together.
I think they had just argued themselves into such a negative space where
Yeah.
he was drinking and I think he had become somebody entirely
Yeah,
different
it sounds
because
like that.
he was unhappy and
Yeah.
trying to make that better with alcohol. And
Man.
Ruth was unhappy and trying to make that better with like stepping out the side.
Woof.
It was just bad.
Oh, that's really bad.
Now, I want to say luckily, but it doesn't work out that way. Luckily, Ruth had reached her breaking point by the early 1920s, and she had started considering leaving Albert,
Yeah.
which she wished that she had just done that. But the problem was that if she was going to leave, she was only going to do so if she was going to be awarded a large alimony and child support payment, and she wanted full custody of Lorraine. Given how Albert felt about having a daughter, it seemed pretty reasonable that he wouldn't
Yeah.
object to giving full custody.
Which is awful.
But the money part, the alimony and the child support payments, were another matter entirely. In order to get everything she wanted out of the divorce, Ruth was going to have to prove to a court that Albert had either been unfaithful or that there was a pattern of cruel treatment. Now, in the later years of their marriage, others had witnessed the unkind ways that Albert treated his family, but in the 1920s, it wasn't anything that would constitute cruelty.
I was going to say, it's
Which-
such a different barometer.
What the fuck
Yeah.
would back then?
Yeah, not a lot.
Like, people remember that his child wouldn't eat her oatmeal and he locked himself in a room and told her he was going to shoot himself. And that
that's
doesn't
not
constitute
considered cruel.
cruelty.
Yeah.
Like, damn.
Yeah. It was the Wild West back then.
I guess so. So she couldn't prove that. And as for his infidelity, Ruth did suspect that he was carrying on an affair with a woman from his office, but she didn't have any evidence and she wasn't going to be able to prove it. So under the circumstances, it seemed like a divorce under desirable conditions was out of the question. And if Ruth wanted out of her marriage with full benefits, she was going to have to find another way. Now, it may have been true that she didn't have very many female friends, but her life wasn't completely void of women. Occasionally, she would have lunch with her hairdresser and friend Kitty Kaufman. It was in June of 1925 that Kitty and Ruth were sitting together having lunch when they ran into Judd Gray, a hosiery salesman, an acquaintance of Kitty's.
A hosiery salesman.
His hosiery was not bunching.
His hosiery.
Now, Judd Gray was born in New York, but he spent most of his life in New Jersey, actually. Like Ruth, he had been sickly as a child, and he also felt isolated from other kids as a result, so they could kind of relate.
Yeah.
Among the
Bond
illnesses
on it.
that he suffered as a child, he suffered a particularly bad bout of pneumonia that actually almost killed him, and he had to spend a ton of time in the hospital recovering from that.
Oh, wow.
A few years later, he was wrestling with another boy at school, and someone threw a fistful of sand in his face, and some of that got into his eye, which permanently impaired his vision.
Whoa.
Yeah, like, you think just like one split-second little thing.
Yeah, it's like,
and then,
don't be a dick and throw sand in people's faces.
yeah, it could ruin the rest of their
Yeah.
life. But these setbacks in his younger years had left him a pretty shy, introverted child. He struggled to make friends with other boys, and he spent most of his time with his mother and his sister, who he was really, really close to. He adored them.
Okay.
His awkward social skills left him with a lifelong feeling of inadequacy and a desperate desire to be included by his peers. Now, luckily, in 1908, when he was only 16, he ended up meeting his future wife, Isabel Kallenbach. But according to McKellar, even Gray's falling in love was motivated by a desire to be one of the gang. At the time, his sister was engaged to be married, so he felt this pressure that he needed to find a partner, or he was risking becoming a third wheel. So, unfortunately, the positive addition of romance into his life was kind of offset by the fact that his father's attempt to transition from jeweler to jewelry manufacturer hadn't gone very well, and Judd was forced to quit school and become a salesman to help support the family.
Oh, wow.
So all of a sudden, he's got like a lot of change going on in his
Yeah.
life. Now, when Judd's grandfather died in 1914, he actually was offered his grandfather's territory with the Empire Corset Company. Judd had no experience at that point selling ladies' undergarments, but the job paid better and was more reliable than jewelry sales, so he accepted it. And it was through that job as a salesman that he met Kitty Kaufman, and it was because of Kitty that, in the summer of 1925, he found himself talking with Ruth Snyder.
Ooh, that's how we get there.
Yep. And by the time he met Ruth, his own marriage was in serious decline. He and his wife had had a child together, and using the money from his inheritance after his father's death, they bought a house in East Orange, New Jersey. but his job as a salesman meant that he had to travel a great deal. So they didn't really have a lot of alone time together.
Yeah.
And when they did manage to get time alone together, it was apparent that they had very different interests when it came to socialization. Judd's idea of a good time was going out to nightclubs, theaters, fancy restaurants, and Isabel much preferred to stay home and play cards. So they were just
Opposite ends of the spectrum.
apples and oranges,
Yeah.
exactly. In fact, after their daughter Jane was born, Isabel regularly discouraged Judd from going out, and she also hated the social group that he hung out with. So it was just
So you're just kind of, what are you going to do?
like, what do you do at that
Yeah.
point?
What are your choices here?
Yeah. So by the time he was 30, Judd had reached a lot of major milestones of adulthood, marriage, family, home ownership, but he was completely miserable.
Damn.
Now, that afternoon, when he joined Kitty and Ruth for lunch at Henry's, which was a Swedish restaurant on 34th Street, they spent the afternoon just drinking highballs and chatting and laughing.
Drinking highballs.
Drinking highballs. Judd and Ruth enjoyed each other's company so much that they decided to get another drink together after Kitty left. And then another one and another one. Now, when the afternoon inevitably had come to a close, Judd was so reluctant to leave that he insisted Ruth come see him at his office the next day to accept a free corset, and also insisted that she write to him whenever he was out on the road.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
The relationship had begun innocently enough, I guess you could say, sort of. It happened by like happenstance, but soon it became an all-consuming affair. For Judd, whose experience with women was literally just limited to his mother, his sister, and his wife, who he met at 16, Ruth was something of a wild woman. Remember, she's a cutout. Or
She's
a cut-up.
She's a cutout.
She's a cutout. She's a cutout. She was exciting. She was sexually liberated. She was socially uninhibited. She was a great time.
Yeah, she's a cutout, man.
And Judd, Ruth found that initial spark that had actually first drawn her to her own husband, Albert. He was attentive. He lavished her with gifts, attention. He loved going out, going to shows and restaurants. Like, it was literally like her and Albert's early days.
Yeah. So it's like bringing her back.
But his sales route kept him away more often than either of them would have liked. But whenever he was in New York, they would manage to make some excuse to their respective spouses about why they needed to be away overnight.
Eek.
AKA, they're having a full-blown affair.
Yeah. I was going to say, we've reached affair territory.
Yeah. Neither of them was particularly public about the affair, but at times it seemed like they weren't really going out of their way to hide it either. Not long after they started seeing each other, Ruth was getting a large number of letters addressed to one Mrs. Jane Gray. And
Jane Gray?
like Jane Doe, but his last name.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or Lady Jane Grey.
Oh, yeah. That's fancy too.
Yeah.
And she told the postal worker to only deliver these specific letters to her, not to give them to anybody else.
Yeah. Don't worry about it, though.
No, it's
not
fine.
suspicious at all.
Don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious.
But at the same time, the Snyder's telephone bill ballooned in size due to all the long-distance calls that Ruth was making to Judd while he was out on the road.
Yikes.
She told a friend Al about hit the ceiling once when he saw the long-distance charges.
Al about hit the ceiling.
I'm like, yeah, I bet he did.
Damn.
But if he had any idea about the affair, Albert never said as much. He also had a history of infidelity and was very likely having his own affair at the same time. Jesus.
So he's like, who gives a shit?
He's like, yeah, I guess we're both doing that.
We're very unhappy.
But more importantly, by 1925, when the affair had begun, their marriage was like completely destroyed. So neither of them cared. They fought constantly, though, and their latest subject of debate was around their daughter. Ruth was willing to stay in the unhappy marriage, but she was determined to get Lorraine out of the house as soon as possible, and she wanted to send her to a boarding school. I think because things were so dysfunctional.
She just didn't want her around that.
Yeah, she thought it would be better. In fact, she actually started working part-time selling stock in a dental supply company door to door, trying to save some money to make it so she could send Lorraine away.
Oh, wow.
But Albert was completely opposed to this. He did not want to send Lorraine away.
Which is shocking.
I know, exactly. But according to McKellar, shortly after the argument, Mrs. Snyder became interested in insurance.
Wow, what an unrelated thing.
Yeah?
That won't have any bearing on this, I'm sure.
No, not at all.
No.
At first, her curiosity about insurance seemed rather innocuous. If Judd carried about $30,000 in life insurance, why did Albert, who who had 2 recent brushes actually with accidental death, only carry 1,000.
Why?
I don't know. In late November of 1925, Ruth said the same thing. She said, I don't know why he doesn't do this. So she invited an insurance agent, Leroy Ashfield, to the house to discuss increasing Albert's life insurance.
I know back then nobody knew that was a red flag yet. We know better now.
We definitely
right?
know
2024, we can all agree. Your
Yeah.
spouse invites an insurance agent over to the house to discuss your life insurance and increasing it.
better. Lock the doors.
That's a problem.
Sneak out the back and
Yeah.
book a flight somewhere where they'll never find you.
You want to go to a safe place.
Yes. But with the extra income she was receiving monthly from her father's estate following his death, they could definitely afford more insurance. And to her surprise, Albert agreed.
Oh my.
A few days later, he called Ashfield's office and told them to write up a new policy for $50,000 with Ruth listed as the beneficiary.
Whoa.
The policy also included a double indemnity clause, meaning that the company would pay double that in the event of an accidental death.
Oh.
So if he died by accident, she would actually get $100,000.
Oh man.
Yes. On the morning of March 20th, 1927, 9-year-old Lorraine Snyder was awoken by a strange sound at her bedroom door.
She's only 9.
I know, she's a little baby. The family had been out at a party the night before, and she stayed up later than midnight, so she was groggier than usual. And it took her a few seconds before she realized it was actually a light tapping that she was hearing at her door. So she called out for her mom and dad, but got no answer. So she got out of bed and opened the door. And lying on the floor with her wrists and ankles bound together and a handkerchief stuffed in her mouth was her mother, Ruth, who had been tapping at the door lightly for some time.
That's so terrifying.
So Lorraine removed the gag, and Ruth told her to run to the phone and call their neighbor, Mr. Mulhauser, for help. Mr. Mulhauser arrived a few moments later and helped Ruth undo the rest of the bindings while she gave her best recollection of what had happened. She told him, "They hit me over the head and tied me up. I'm afraid for Albert."
Uh-oh.
So Mulhauser went to the couple's bedroom and found that on one of their twin beds, quote, the covers were piled in a heap, blood-stained in 2 or 3 places. He pulled back the covers and discovered a badly beaten Albert Snyder who had 2 large gashes in his head and a picture hanging wire wrapped tightly around his neck.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah. When the police arrived, Ruth gave them the full account of what happened the night before. She said they had been out at the home of their friend George Hugh, and Albert and George actually got into an argument that eventually caused the Snyders to leave. She said around 2 a.m., right as she was getting ready for bed, she heard a board squeak in the hallway, and she went to check, which is when she said 2 men came into the house. She said they were both strangers. One man, a giant, seized her by the throat and hit her over the head. After that, she said she could remember nothing until she woke up on the floor in the hall several hours later.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. So Mr. Mulhauser called another neighbor, George
George.
George
George.
Kolya. And the 2 men helped Ruth into Lorraine's room before they called the police. The first to arrive at the house were patrolman Robert Tucker and Edmund Schultes, who immediately evaluated the scene.
They evacuated the area.
I have Taco Bell, IBS, indigestion, and I'm dying. I have evacuation on the brain.
You do.
They immediately evaluated the scene as a robbery gone wrong. They briefly questioned Ruth, who just kept telling them the same story that she told the neighbors.
Yeah.
And they started searching the home. Later, both men would recall at no time during her original questioning did Ruth ask about her husband or even seem remotely interested in how he was doing.
She forgot that part.
Yeah.
She forgot that part of the script.
She should have wrote that on her hand.
She was too focused.
About Albert.
Yeah, too focused on the story and not focused enough on also act like a human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also worry about your husband,
Yeah.
sister. A short time later,
Getting scared is one thing. Getting a thrill is, well, you want more of those in your life. The Genesis GV70 is built to thrill, baby. A thrilling yet elegant design always makes driving the GV70 an exciting adventure. Its powerful athletic stance screams performance and turns heads. Everybody's looking at you, girl, or boy, or whoever. Command the road and experience a class-leading standard 300 horsepower. Oh my God. Plus, discover the different dynamic drive modes for all different terrains. Choose between the different terrain modes for whatever road conditions you may encounter. The Genesis GV70's award-winning technology and performance lets you drive with comfort and drive with confidence all at the same time. It's an exciting SUV with intuitive tech that can make your ride smooth even when the road isn't. And its blind spot cameras allow you to see what's next to you. It's like having eyes on the side of your head. That's pretty iconic. Its performance, by the way, is measured not only in power, but in how it makes you feel confident, sexy. The Genesis GV70. Learn more at genesis.com and feel the GV70. This episode is brought to you by SoFi, the all-in-one finance app where you can bank, borrow, and invest all in one place. Let's talk about bank accounts for a second. The average bank savings rate is 0.39% in interest. You're earning pennies on your savings, and it doesn't have to be that way. But with SoFi's high-yield checkings and savings, the money barely making moves sitting in your savings account can earn over 8 times the national average savings rate with eligible direct deposit. No account or overdraft fees. We love transparency. You can get your paycheck up to 2 days early, plus get up to a $300 welcome bonus when you sign up with eligible direct deposit. Sign up for SoFi checking and savings at sofi.com/morbid. SoFi checking and savings is offered through SoFi Bank, N.A., member FDIC. Terms apply. An ambulance arrived along with local physician Dr. Vincent Juster. The doctor made a quick evaluation of Albert's body and estimated he'd been dead about 6 hours. He placed his time of death right about the time that Ruth claimed they got home from the party. Juster examined Ruth, and despite what she'd claimed about being hit on the head, he could not find a single injury anywhere on her head or anywhere else on her body, and could find nothing that would have caused her to lose consciousness for an extended period of time, like she had claimed.
Did you forget that part too?
Yeah, she did not knock her noggin.
The fact that she was like, I got hit in the head and passed out for several hours. And didn't think that she should probably get herself a head wound.
No.
Okay.
She said, how would they know?
Yeah, how are they going to know?
How are they going to know?
They won't know.
Rather than being disoriented, also, like you would expect from somebody who had been hit over the head and lost consciousness for multiple hours.
Perhaps.
He noted that Ruth seemed calm and collected.
Because she wasn't hit over the head.
Pretty much. Albert's body, though, was transferred to the medical examiner's office where the autopsy was conducted by Dr. Howard Neal. The first observation that he noted was that Albert had 2 wounds on his head, one on the back of the skull and the other on the right near the forehead, both about 1 inch long and about 1/2 inch wide. Both had been inflicted with a blunt, heavy object, and although they did look superficial, they were the cause of death.
Ooh.
Another serious injury was caused by manual strangulation. The picture hanging wire that had been wrapped tightly around his neck had strangled him.
Cut his skin.
Yeah. Finally, and most curiously, there was a cotton rag stuffed into his mouth, and the strips of the same cotton fabric had been balled up and shoved into both of his nostrils.
Oh my God.
A chemical analysis would determine that the substance on the rag was chloroform.
Wow.
The same substance found on a blue handkerchief that was found on the bed at the crime scene.
Whoa.
Yeah, so he had been chloroformed like a ton.
Yeah.
Dr. Neal also evaluated Ruth at the hospital and came to the same conclusion that Juster had. It was very unlikely that she had ever lost consciousness at all, let alone for 5 or 6 hours like she'd claimed. And Neal also pointed out that her wrists didn't show any signs that you would expect from a person who had been bound for an extended period of time and also had struggled to free themselves like she said she had.
The fact that they were already up on these little like nuances in 1920, like these kind of things.
Isn't that cool?
Interesting? Yeah.
There was no chafing, no rash, no irritation on her wrists. And when he heard the story that she had given the police, he laughed and said, 5 hours? 5 minutes would be more like it.
Oh, you can't get past the forensic pathologist.
You sure
man.
can't.
The medical examiners are going to get you every time.
Just like in your case.
Just like in my case.
Yeah. It was only a few hours since investigators had arrived at the Snyder's house, and already the cracks in Ruth's story were starting to show. Her injuries didn't match the story that she was telling at all, and neither did the condition of Albert's body. It wasn't uncommon for someone to be killed during the commission of a robbery, but when it did happen, it didn't look like what detectives had discovered in the Snyder's bedroom. In botched robberies, the victims might be stabbed or shot before somebody runs away. But in this case, the killer not only hit Albert in the head, they also tried to render him unconscious with a large amount of chloroform. Then they also violently strangled him with a wire.
Yeah, that I was going to say that was a lot of stuff.
A lot.
For them to claim that they were just robbing.
Yeah. Like if somebody had actually come into the Snyder house to rob them in the middle of the night, it seemed way more likely that no, they didn't come to rob, they came to kill.
Yeah.
Finally, there was also the house itself that seemed all wrong to investigators. In robberies, obviously, detectives fully intended to find the home ransacked, but in this case, the house had been, quote unquote, this is my favorite, systematically turned topsy-turvy.
I love that. They can always tell.
I just love the way that they describe it. Like, that's so 1920s, like, topsy-turvy.
Topsy-turvy. And it's systematically topsy-turvy.
Yes. It appeared that whoever had searched the house had gone room by room, tearing everything apart, from the drawers and the cabinets to the closets and the couch cushions. But among the mess, there was a ton of valuable items, like Albert's gold watch with a platinum chain just lying about. But still, Ruth claimed that her most valuable jewelry was missing. And she said also, I have a fur coat, and $110 in cash was stolen from Albert's wallet.
So obviously,
all of those things are gone.
Yeah.
And the thing was, though, that it was very telling to the detectives. Whoever had torn through the house also tore through the kitchen.
Oh, there's your tell.
One detective later told reporters, no professional burglar or thief ever even touches the kitchen.
Because what the fuck are they going to find in there?
Nothing.
It's by chance if they find something in there. And they're not going to waste time.
And if you've already passed by all those, like a gold watch.
You're not going to waste time in the kitchen.
No. There were other things about the scene that also seemed very strange and very convenient. Ruth had described the man who attacked her as Italian, or at least Italian looking, she said. And on the floor in the master bedroom, they discovered scraps of an Italian language newspaper. So not only did this person supposedly rob them, they also sat down and read the newspaper and then ripped it up
and left it on the floor.
Yeah, and then it gets better.
That was so convenient of him.
It really was.
To do that.
It was super duper
convenient.
It
was so nice.
Also, on the table in the living room, detectives discovered a full glass of whiskey beside a newly opened bottle. And beside that was a half-smoked cigarette and an ashtray.
Okay.
Neither Albert or Ruth smoked cigarettes. And according to her story, they came home from the party and immediately went to bed. So if what she was saying was true, that meant that at some point or another, before committing a brutal murder, the killer sat down in the living room, perhaps read that Italian newspaper, smoked half a cigarette, and then poured a glass of whiskey for themselves, but never took a sip of it.
What's your point? I don't see anything wrong with that.
This is crack.
Just kidding.
What's your point?
That's wild.
That's what Ruth said.
That's wild. Yeah.
They sat Ruth down and told her all of that.
Yeah.
And she said, what's your point?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I don't see what you want me to say here.
She said, I can't read Italian.
Sounds like a time.
She said, I also don't like whiskey.
Yeah. She's like, sounds like a time was had.
I don't know.
Okay. I was there, asleep. Though. Yeah.
I was unconscious.
I was unconscious for 5 or 6 hours with no headwind to be seen.
I have a strong skull.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
I heal really fast. I'm the Slayer.
I am the chosen one.
I just heal really fast. I have superpowers.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, according to McKellar, investigators, quote, did not give Mrs. Snyder's story the slightest credence.
Wow, it sounds like she went in like with a strong story at first.
Fully confident.
But man, that fell apart quick.
Yeah, confidence doesn't always sell your story. You
Certainly doesn't. It does in the beginning, but once they start poking holes, oof, that fell apart.
And she made it real easy for them to do that. She
sure did.
But all 3 doctors who evaluated her that morning concluded she didn't have any injuries that would explain her story. But that was only one of the details that didn't make sense. If her hands had been loosely bound in front of her, as they had been when the neighbor found her, why hadn't she at least untied the binding around her ankles?
Yeah.
They were like, why didn't
would
you
you
do
stay
that?
bound like that?
And nothing at the scene made it seem like it was a robbery at all. What criminal would risk having to kill a man so brutally for a pretty meager payoff?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like he would have, if what you're saying was true, he would have bonked you both in the head, ran around, grabbed what he could, and
Definitely
out he goes.
taken that gold watch.
Yeah, and out he goes.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have stopped in the kitchen, I can tell you that much. And he definitely wouldn't be not drinking a whiskey.
Pouring it,
but
not
pouring
drinking it.
smoking half a cigarette, and then ripping up an Italian newspaper.
Nah.
No.
I don't think so.
No.
There was literally also nothing about Albert Snyder's public profile or their home that would imply wealth. So whoever was said to have broken in there would have been completely desperate and reckless.
Yeah.
Like it just didn't make any
It wasn't
sense.
some planned crazy thing.
And like you were just saying, if they were so desperate, why would they take the time to pour a glass of whiskey, not drink it, and only smoke half a cigarette before they left? And
wouldn't.
why would they leave behind those valuables, which were in plain view?
The answer is they would not.
Yeah, no, it was clear to literally anyone with eyes or ears that Ruth was not being honest with detectives. And within a few hours of having called the police, she went from acting suspicious to being a full-blown suspect.
Yeah.
When the most important part of her story turned out to be an outright lie.
Uh-oh.
Because initially, like you remember, she claimed that some of her most valuable jewelry was gone. Rings, necklaces, brooches. She said they'd all been stolen, and so had her expensive fur coat.
Yeah.
Within a few hours, investigators who were searching the home found all of that jewelry stuffed under a mattress in the bedroom.
Come on, man. Like,
She just put it under a mattress.
why? Why?
When confronted with this, she said her memory had failed her and that she had forgotten hiding them there.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And
That's the correct answer.
then that coat that she claimed had been stolen was found in the back of a closet.
I mean, the jig is up. It's up.
I'm glad you couldn't, but
Yeah.
like you couldn't do better than hiding that coat.
You couldn't even
in
bring
a
them out of the
closet?
house at any point?
You can just throw them in the trash downstairs.
Literally do anything else?
She hid the coat in a closet. That's
Yeah.
the first place literally
That's where
anyone
coats
is going to
go.
look.
That's where coats live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all things considered, that scene of a supposed burglary was starting to look like somebody had staged it.
You don't say.
And very badly at
Yeah.
that. When she was cleared by the doctor, Ruth was taken to the Jamaica precinct for further questions, which went on all day and well into the evening. Most interesting to the detectives asking the questions was how Ruth spoke of her now dead husband as though he was someone she didn't care for.
Oh, no.
When asked what kind of man he was, she replied, "Why, he was just the opposite from what I am. I'm young and I like to have a good time and go out to parties and dance. He liked to stick around the house."
Like that's what we wanted to know.
We were more asking,
Like a little deeper than that.
does he know anybody that would ransack your house?
Essentially, she said, he doesn't like to party
And he's old.
and he's old. And they were like,
That's-
that's not what we were asking.
That's it.
Thank you for that, though.
Now, while she was being interviewed at the precinct, other officers started talking with the Snyder's friends and neighbors to get a more accurate picture of their relationship. Of greatest interest to them was a fight that Albert had supposedly got to on the night of the murder, but that turned out to be a dead end when they learned that it was kind of just a petty squabble between friends. Reports of a suspicious, quote-unquote, feeble-minded man seen in the area days before the murder were also investigated and quickly ruled out. And like we said, nothing about that scene suggested that any kind of break-in had occurred. The doors and the windows were all still locked from the inside, and none of the entrances appeared to have been tampered with.
This was not well thought out, which I'm glad it wasn't because they got caught. But
Yeah. But like, wow, it's actually appalling how little they planned.
Yeah.
Because also Albert's .32 caliber pistol, which he kept beside the bed for protection, was still undisturbed in its holster. So if he'd seen the attacker at all, it hadn't been alarming enough for him to reach for his gun.
That's interesting.
Yeah. As detectives inside the Jamaica precinct continued questioning Ruth into the early hours of the morning, they were like really going for her. Reporters had started to assemble outside the station, trying to await a statement from the Commissioner McLaughlin, which always makes me think of John,
Yeah, you're right.
or District Attorney Thomas Thornton. However, much to their disappointment, when McLaughlin finally emerged at 1:30 in the morning, his statement was brief and vague. He said, "The investigation has not yet progressed far enough for me to make a definite statement."
To the point.
And if I was a reporter, I would have said boring.
Boring. Or if you were my youngest, you would say that.
Yeah, boring. Now, McLaughlin might not have had anything to say about the investigation at 1:30 a.m., but just a few hours later, the case broke wide open when Ruth broke down and confessed to playing a role in her husband's death.
Woo!
However, she blamed the actual murder itself on her lover, Judd Gray. I was going to say Jude. It's Judd. According to Ruth, she secreted Gray in the house early Saturday evening, then accompanied her husband and daughter to the home of friends where they had a bridge party until after midnight. Once they returned home and Albert had fallen asleep, Gray emerged from his hiding place, snuck into the master bedroom where he struck Albert twice in the head with a sash weight, and then stuffed the chloroform rags into his mouth and nose before wrapping the wire around the man's neck and strangling him to death.
Damn.
It's like, why did you guys do all of that?
Yeah.
Once Albert was dead, Judd and Ruth went from one room to another, ransacking the house to make it seem like the place had been robbed. And then, after hiding what few valuables Ruth would claim had been stolen, Judd used the picture wire to gently bind her wrists and ankles and made sure she was comfortable in her bed before leaving the house.
Wow.
Yeah. Based on Ruth's confession, detectives searched for Judd Gray and eventually located him at a hotel in Syracuse, New York, where he was arrested on the afternoon of March 21st. With both suspects now in custody, it wasn't long before Ruth and Judd turned on each other and started accusing one another of being the killer.
Of course.
Because that literally always happens. In her confession, Ruth claimed things became unbearable and I was looking for a way out. And in talking with Mr. Gray, whereby we were talking about getting rid of him.
Wow.
It's like, wow.
That just happens so casually.
We were just getting really close and we were talking. And then I said, what if we got rid of my husband?
You know, what if?
According to Ruth, by February of 1927, Albert had become intolerably abusive and on multiple occasions actually even threatened to kill her. And when she told Judd about the threats, she said his response was that they should, quote, get Snyder before he got her.
Wow.
Yeah. When he was first arrested, Judd claimed he actually never even met Albert Snyder and had no idea what the detectives were talking about. When the charges against him were read, he said, "Do you think I'm crazy? Why, I've never even met Snyder. The woman must be crazy when she involves me in this thing."
Bad person to set this up with.
Yeah, exactly. According to Judd, his relationship with Ruth was flirty and friendly, but they only ever possibly had lunch 4 or 5 times at the most. To say you possibly did something 5 times is batshit crazy.
Maybe.
Possibly I did that 5 times.
Yeah, possibly.
What?
Like, I don't know.
Like, possibly I might have done that once.
Yeah.
That's very believable.
Yeah.
Possibly I did that 5 times.
You know what I mean? Like a whole handful of times, maybe.
You did that.
You did.
But he said, so maybe I might have done that, but I never, ever met her husband.
Never.
And he also claimed he had been in Syracuse the whole night that the murder even happened. And he also presented letters and phone records that supposedly proved he was at that hotel when Albert was killed. Unfortunately for him, detectives quickly determined that those letters had been mailed in advance and the phone calls had been prearranged to support his alibi. So, wrong.
There's that.
With his alibi rapidly crumbling, he decided to confess, but of course, he blamed Ruth. According to him, he did not want to kill Snyder, but he was coerced by Mrs. Snyder.
That makes it better.
Yeah. He said that she threatened to reveal their affair to his wife unless he helped her with the murder.
Whoa.
Now, both Ruth and Judd's confessions were very similar in that they each detailed how they'd met, how Ruth had been suffering in her relationship with an abusive man, and that one of the motives for the murder was the insurance payout she was going to get if Albert died.
Of course.
Where they differed, though, obviously, was who was ultimately responsible for Albert's death. According to Judd, he hit Albert once with the weight, but then Ruth, quote, picked up the weight and struck him over the head again.
Whoa.
So he was like, I only did it once.
Yeah, and I wasn't the kill shot.
Yeah. He explained that the plan had started months earlier, but he never believed they would actually go through with it.
Guys,
we were just talking about murdering her husband.
No one's ever talking casually about murdering someone that they are close to.
And also,
it's never casual.
Your inputting casually and you just don't think it's ever going to happen? Like what?
You guys shouldn't be talking about this in a real way.
He told investigators they began by saying things like, quote, wouldn't it be great if the old man would only pass away?
Wow.
But that the idea, quote unquote, remained in the wish state for a long time.
That's actually a fairly pretty sentence.
In another
context.
Yeah.
You know?
Remained in the wish state is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, that's good writing.
But it's in a different context.
Yeah. Anyway, the idea eventually did turn into a kind of half joke that they shared until they finally started to, quote, talk about ways and means of making that wish come true.
Wowzer.
Yeah. If only it had remained in the wish state.
Yeah.
In his statement to the press, Queens District Attorney Richard Newcomb said, a more cold-blooded crime has never been conceived, and he vowed to prosecute both to the fullest extent of the law. I feel like they always say that.
It's very hyperbolic.
It is. I mean, like, it's
a very
cold-blooded
bad crime. Yeah.
for sure.
Very cold-blooded.
But
up there and in the bad ones, for sure.
Definitely. But also, like, Jack the Ripper had already
I was
killed
going to
all
say
his
Jack the
victims at this
Ripper had
point in
been
time.
around, so...
But he announced that he planned to convene the grand jury as soon as humanly possible, and he was expecting indictments for first-degree murder. In the meantime, Judd and Ruth were arraigned on March 22nd, and despite both having confessed, they entered pleas of not guilty. According to Ruth's lawyer, quote, the confession was wrung from her by duress. And Judd's lawyer, quote, hinted that a plea of insanity might be entered later. I feel like we're coming across that so often lately. According to the New York Times, while Judd had also recanted his confession, he almost immediately contradicted himself when he saw his wife later that day.
You don't say.
Imagine being that poor woman.
Yeah.
Not only do you learn that your man has been cheating on you, but that he is now involved in a murder case.
Because he murdered his mistress's husband for her.
Yeah. But when Mrs. Gray asked her husband whether or not he had done what he'd been accused of, he, quote, hung his head, then nodded and said yes.
Oh, that's gut-wrenching.
Yeah. It's like out of a movie.
Yeah.
On March 24th, just 2 days after being charged, District Attorney Newcomb's prediction came true when the grand jury handed down indictments for first-degree murder for both Ruth and Judd. In total, the grand jury heard testimony from 8 witnesses and viewed the full extent of the physical evidence, and they also heard full confessions from both of the accused. When the indictments were returned, Newcomb asked for a trial date of April 4th, which was less than 2 weeks away.
Whoa.
He said this will allow ample time for the defense to prepare, and there's no reason for any longer delay.
He's like, shut up.
He's like, we're doing this. We need to get it done. Let's go.
Get it done.
After the indictments were returned, Ruth and Judd both gave interviews to the press where they both reasserted their defenses. Judd repeated his claim that he had only participated in the murder because Ruth threatened to expose their affair, but it was Ruth who struck the killing blow with the sash weight. He did not kill the man. He only participated.
No way. I did the first one, not the second.
It's like, does that really make it that much better?
You're still bad.
Yeah. Ruth, on the other hand, denied any responsibility and stuck to her story that her confession had been coerced. When a reporter asked her directly whether she participated in the murder of her husband, she said, God, no, and insisted that Albert was her first and only love.
Wow.
Fake.
Wow.
She also gave a somewhat dishonest description of her relationship with Judd, claiming that for more than a year, their friendship had been purely...
Getting scared is one thing. Getting a thrill is, well, you want more of those in your life. The Genesis GV70 is built to thrill, baby. A thrilling yet elegant design always makes driving the GV70 an exciting adventure. Its powerful athletic stance screams performance and turns heads. Everybody's looking at you, girl, or boy, or whoever. Command the road and experience a class-leading standard 300 horsepower. Oh my God. Plus, discover the different dynamic drive modes for all different terrains. Choose between the different terrain modes for whatever road conditions you may encounter. The Genesis GV70's award-winning technology and performance lets you drive with comfort and drive with confidence all at the same time. It's an exciting SUV with intuitive tech that can make your ride smooth even when the road isn't. And its blind spot cameras allow you to see what's next to you. It's like having eyes on the side of your head. That's pretty iconic. Its performance, by the way, is measured not only in power, but in how it makes you feel confident, sexy. The Genesis GV70. Learn more at genesis.com and feel the GV70. This episode is brought to you by SoFi, the all-in-one finance app where you can bank, borrow, and invest all in one place. Let's talk about bank accounts for a second. The average bank savings rate is 0.39% in interest. You're earning pennies on your savings, and it doesn't have to be that way. But with SoFi's high-yield checkings and savings, the money barely making moves sitting in your savings account can earn over 8 times the national average savings rate with eligible direct deposit. No account or overdraft fees. We love transparency. You can get your paycheck up to 2 days early, plus get up to a $300 welcome bonus when you sign up with eligible direct deposit. Sign up for SoFi checking and savings at SoFi.com/morbid. SoFi checking and savings is offered through SoFi Bank, N.A., member FDIC. Terms apply.
Platonic. Also wrong.
Doubt it.
She said, "It never would have been otherwise if my husband loved me, but Albert ceased to care for me." And then she paused for a moment before adding, "Oh, I'm awfully sorry about this."
I bet you are.
I bet. In the days leading up to the trial, her lawyer desperately tried to get the trial separated, likely knowing that being tied to Judd would only make his client look more guilty. In fact, when the press considered Ruth's culpability alone, there was a growing consensus that it was, quote, unthinkable that a jury of men will condemn pretty Ruth Snyder to death. They won't find her guilty. She's gorge.
Not that hot cut up there.
Yeah, no, never.
Yeah.
Judd's defense team, on the other hand, was determined to prevent that from happening. Given that no Queen's jury had ever sentenced a woman to death, he stood a much better chance of avoiding the death penalty if he were to be tried alongside Ruth.
I love that they had opposite reasons for it.
Yeah, exactly. In the end, Ruth lost her bid to have the cases separated, and the two went on to be tried together. So
Not good for her.
Judd thought it was going to be good for him. It wasn't good for Ruth, and I'll let you know right here that it's actually not good for either of them.
Woof.
After a week of difficult jury selection, the trial began on Monday, April 25th, with a courtroom full of celebrities and locals, all eager to get a glimpse of these killers.
Wow.
Yeah. What a different time. Outside the courthouse, vendors sold popcorn and hot dogs while the overflow crowd attempted to see through doors and windows.
Wow.
At one point, a guy even arrived with a load of wood and tried to build a foot riser to see in the windows.
Now that's just innovative.
That is innovative.
That's just putting your skills to good use.
But eventually they told him to go away.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do that. But like, could you... Somebody must have like patted him on the back and been like, in another situation, this was pretty good.
Absolutely.
This was pretty smart.
I would have. In his opening statement, District Attorney Newcomb laid out the case in pretty simple terms. He said Ruth Snyder and Judd Gray had been involved in an affair for over a year, and eventually they decided to murder Albert in order to, one, avoid the stigma and problems of a divorce, and also to access that large life insurance payout that Ruth was going to get upon his death. Newcomb assured the jury that the state would prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the death was not an impulsive act, but was the result of constant and repeated planning that went back many months, and that both of the accused were equally responsible for this murder.
Bam.
Yeah. In the days that followed, the prosecution called a number of witnesses. They presented considerable evidence in support of their theory that Albert Snyder's death had been the result of a conspiracy perpetrated by his wife and Judd Gray. Among the most damning evidence was the insurance policy, which Newcomb claimed Snyder had been, quote, tricked into signing without reading it, studying it, or knowing what it was about.
How did that even happen?
According to Leroy Ashfield, the agent from the Prudential Life Insurance Company, Ruth convinced her husband to sign the document in which the amounts had been left blank, and Ashfield filled in the highest amounts once it had been signed. And once it had been signed, Ruth, quote, paid all the premiums herself and gave instructions that all mail relating to this policy be sent only to her.
And no one thought that was a little strange.
Imagine the poor postal worker that worked for her, or had her on his route.
Yeah.
Yikes. The insurance documents and testimony from Ashfield were definitely the most compelling evidence of a conspiracy, but by far the most damning evidence was the written confessions that both of these fuckers made when they were arrested.
It always is.
And both of those were read aloud for the jury. In Judd's confession, he claimed, with some veiled threats and intense lovemaking, she reached the point where she got me in such a whirl that I didn't even know where I was at. Like, wow.
Okay.
Like, that's just saying we had good sex and she convinced me to murder her husband.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's the worst excuse ever.
I'm not very sympathetic to it, my friend.
And he admitted that he played some role in Snyder's murder, but he said he only had done so because Ruth, quote, hounded him into the crime. He went on to say that Ruth had actually already tried to kill Albert 6 times prior to the final act, And when he first learned of her plans, he was horrified and told her so. It's like, but you still showed up to take part in this.
Like,
so that doesn't matter.
Like, Ruth is like, I tried it 6 times. And he's like, what? I'm shocked that you would kill your husband.
That's crazy.
What?
After the prosecution rested their case, Ruth's defense team took over and called their first witness, Ruth Snyder.
Oh.
In the weeks since her arrest, she had gone from confessing to the murder to now not only claiming that she played no part in it, but that she had actually tried to save her husband from Judd Gray.
Wow.
According to Ruth, she, quote, found Judd Gray kneeling on the back of the sleeping man, hitting him with a sash weight, and she dragged him off.
I bet.
Yeah, totally.
I bet that's what happened.
She claimed at that point he threatened her with a pistol and told her not to interfere or he would kill her. She told the jury, I was mortally afraid of him. I saw what a terrible man he was. I couldn't see any other way out than to do what he asked me to do.
This is so real.
It's like, well, what did he ask you to do? Because you just said you played no part in this other than trying to stop him.
Yeah.
So you just contradicted yourself.
So what
is it you're saying, ma'am? Throughout her hours of testimony, the press noted the attitude of the courtroom was generally not one which would communicate sympathy for the witness.
You don't say.
And if she wasn't getting much sympathy from the men on the jury, she was going to get even less from Newcomb on cross-examination. For hours, he went point by point in her testimony and called into question every inaccuracy and every conflict. And she mostly responded with, I don't know, or I don't remember.
Which is definitely translates to, you got me.
Yeah, exactly. The trial finally came to a close on May 9th, 1927, when the jury retired for deliberations. Before sending the jury out, Justice Townsend Scudder reminded the jury of their charge. The defendant Gray contends that the suggestion to murder Albert Snyder was first made by the defendant Snyder. The defendant Snyder contends that the suggestion to murder Albert Snyder was first made by the defendant Gray. He says she proposed it. She says he proposed it. It is your duty to ascertain and declare the facts. Act without fear or favor, without sympathy or prejudice. Find the truth in the evidence, follow it, and apply the law the court has given you, and bring in a just verdict.
Somebody went booyah
It's like
after that.
Don't you just picture them in like a group huddle?
Yes.
Like on the
absolutely.
sideline?
That was like a coach's pump up speech before the big game.
At the end, he just said like, hands in.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
They all went hoorah.
Hoorah. Just before 7 p.m. on May 10th, the jury emerged from deliberation to find Ruth and Judd both guilty of first-degree murder.
That I was actually a little shocked by that, just because of like how messy this whole thing was.
Yeah.
You know, like it could have easily gone another way.
Definitely.
Where like one of them got out of it.
I know. And you would usually think that it would be Ruth just because of the time period and the fact that like she was pretty. So they thought she might be able to kind of sway the jury.
But I think it was them together.
Exactly.
I think it did not work. I mean, I think she was guilty also, but like I don't think it worked in her favor.
I think it was
together.
Yeah, them being together and just the evidence at the house. Like,
I mean, you can't get
her saying all her shit was missing and then them finding it hidden.
Oh yeah.
And then her having no injuries, even though she claimed she was beaten over the head.
That's the thing. It was like it would probably be Judd who would get out of it or get lesser. I don't think either one of them are going to get out of. We're going to get out of it, but like whenever there's two, you always think one of them might get out of it, and this one, nope.
Well, and this is actually interesting, and it's funny that you say this right now because in the case of Judd, 11 of the 12 jurymen voted guilty, and one juror left his decision blank.
Interesting.
They actually believed that Judd had been telling the truth, but they couldn't ignore the fact that he had voluntarily participated in the murder, so they didn't really have a choice but to find him guilty.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They believed what he was saying.
Like that he was saying he didn't intend to, or that he wasn't going there to do that, or that,
But that, like, she had kind of, like, swindled him into it. But in Ruth's case, the jurors were unanimous in disbelieving the story that Ruth had told the court, and all 12 of them voted to find her guilty. So I think even if she had been tried on her own, I think the only one who might have benefited from being tried separately was Judd.
Which is what I thought,
Yeah, I agree with you there. Now, 4 days later, on May 14th, Ruth Snyder and Judd Gray were back before Justice Scudder, where they were both sentenced to die by the electric chair. And remember, no woman in a Queen's jury had ever been sentenced like this. The hearing took 15 minutes from the time they entered the courtroom until they learned their fates. As she was led out of the courtroom after hearing the verdict, Ruth loudly announced, "This is only a formality. I have just as good of a chance now of going free as I had before the trial started."
Survey says that's a lie.
Survey says you're Delulu.
Yeah, that's a no.
Like, this is a formality? No, bitch. This is a literal trial.
This is a literal sentencing. Like, you don't get more official.
No. Ruth and Judd had definitely put a great deal of hope into the appeals process, and they were determined, if nothing else, they would be able to avoid the death penalty. But unfortunately, by January 1928, both of them had exhausted their appeals, and every attempt at clemency or stay of execution had been rejected by the governor.
I mean, yeah.
They tried everything, and it was like, nope.
Absolutely not.
So, on the evening of January 12th, Ruth Snyder and Judd Gray were both led to the electric chair at Sing Sing Prison. Ruth first, followed by Gray. As she was led to the chair, Ruth reportedly, quote, prayed without ceasing and stared with eyes from which all human intelligence had fled.
Whoa. What a descriptor.
I know. At 11 p.m., the executioner threw the switch, ending Ruth's life in a matter of moments. At the moment that the switch was thrown, Tom Howard, a photographer from Daily News,
this is wild,
snapped a photo of Ruth using a camera that he snuck into the prison strapped to his ankle. He
that
literally
is
like
bonkers.
Like, that is commitment on another level.
That is journalism.
That's journalism, baby.
Like that is some commitment to the journalism cause.
We'll post the picture that he got. And it was literally plastered on the front page of the Daily News the next morning. And when you see this picture, you're like, imagine getting your newspaper and that's on the
your
front cover.
Page. And didn't it just say dead?
Yes.
It
literally just said dead.
On the front, like, whoa.
Intense. Now, Judd's execution quickly followed Ruth's. And when asked whether he had anything to say on his behalf, he said, "I was carried forward by some power outside myself, but I had made my peace with God and am now prepared to die." At 11:13, the executioner threw the switch, sending thousands of volts of electricity through his body, and a cloud of smoke rose through the air. At 11:14, the prison doctor announced Judd Gray was dead.
Wow.
And that is the story of the murder of Albert Snyder.
And the fact that it ends with an ankle photo of somebody as the switch is flicked getting electrocuted. Like, the electric chair to me is so barbaric.
It is.
It's just the look of it, the idea of it, the methodology of it is so barbaric to me. Like, it just, in black and white terms, like that is a barbaric thing.
No, I completely agree.
So seeing it is just so jarring. Like, it's very, very jarring.
Like you can see the electricity in the photo. Like,
you can like feel it.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's very gnarly.
Haunting.
And the fact that they just plopped it on the front page. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
What a time.
What a fucking time. And the fact that obviously, like, nobody had ever snuck a camera in before, and he did it with his ankle.
And that can never happen. You know what I mean? Like, with technology and like metal detectors and shit.
No way.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's a crazy story.
Damn.
So we hope you keep listening.
And we hope you
keep
it
weird. Honestly, keep it so weird that you have that much dedication to your journalism.
Yeah, that's a lot of dedication.
I like that. I don't have to tell you not to keep it so weird that you shouldn't murder your husband. You should know that by now.
Yeah, you know not to keep it that weird.
Bye.
Bye.
In the U.S., there's a break-in every 26 seconds. But when intruders step near, Simply Safe Home Security steps up.
Stop. This is Simply Safe. Police are on the way.
Using AI alerts, U.S.-based live agents help deter break-ins. Simply Safe, no long-term contracts. Save 50% on your new system with professional monitoring at simplysafe.com/SXM or with promo code SXM.
Outdoor deterrence requires a Simply Safe Active Guard outdoor protection plan starting at $49.99 a month. Visit simplysafe.com/licenses for alarm license information. Tennessee 2012.
You wouldn't take financial advice from a 72 hours in a single day alpha influencer, would you? Same goes if you're in a car accident or any accident. Who you choose matters. That's why Morgan & Morgan exists. They're the largest injury law firm in America, and they've built a reputation by actually winning cases, not just talking about it. Over 1,000 lawyers across all 50 states and $30 billion recovered. Injured? Go to forthepeople.com/podcast. That's forthepeople.com/podcast.